Hi, I'm Dolly Vasta, and welcome back once again to For Art's Sake. The show is now going into its 14th year. The first show that we ever did was with a potter, and I thought it was time to revisit another potter, a very special lady who does some very special work. Her name is Debra Betancourt, and right at the moment we are downstairs in her studio. We're going to have a little fun with her, and I want you to meet her. Debbie, this is actually the beginning of a new career for you, right?
Yes, it is.
A second one.
Well, more like a third one. First, I was in the Air Force for 8 years, and I got out of the Air Force and married my husband in between. And he had 5 children, and I had one of my own, so we meshed our family together. And I became a software consultant. And I was a software consultant for almost 10 years. But meanwhile, during all of that, I always did ceramics as a hobby. I got laid off from my job, I'd say 4 years ago, maybe 5, and I went back to college to major in business and get my degree and go back out on the job market. And I took ceramics as an easy A like everyone else does when they go to college. And my first college professor, when I turned in my first project, which was this one, he told me I had to change my major. And but I'm a business major, I'm going to be a lawyer. And he said, no, you have to change your major. So for a while I carried a double major, and then finally I just majored in art. And that piece was put in the college show, and just from there on. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to be an artist, I have to find out how do you show. And there is no courses in college for teaching students where do you show, other than colleges usually have their own shows. But how do you get into the national shows? How do you get into a gallery? Or nobody tells you. So what I first did is I went to a craft show in Morristown and talked to a potter who was there, and he gave me a craft magazine that in the back lists all the shows nationwide. And then I later found out a year later that those weren't all the shows. There's even more shows that's available. You just have to get the right magazine. So it's been a learning process as I went along. And I also, my first slides that I did were done by one of my college professors. And I got turned down from some shows on those slides. And later I met a professional photographer who now does all my slides. And the same pieces, but photographed by him, got me into the shows that I was rejected from initially. So,
well, it just goes to show really that perception.
Yes.
And presentation.
Right.
Is extremely important.
And I've since learned that the show, because I talk to all the show promoters when I get into a show and I'm out there actually doing their show, and I ask them in the jurying process, what was it about my work or how I presented myself that caught your eye and allowed me into the show? Because I also found that there are thousands of artists trying to get into shows that have only maybe 50 spaces available. So I would ask, why me and not the other guy down the street or the other lady down the street? And they would tell me because the slides are very professional, and if you they feel if you take the time to make a professional slide, then you're going to be professional about doing their show.
Your work is really very different.
This is a flower pot to me, and I know when people say, when I tell people I make flower pots, they think of a regular clay pot.
Right, a clay pot, and that's it.
And I started doing these 2.5 years ago when we had all those snowstorms. And I had a gallery. I had just started submitting my slides to national competitions, and I had won one. And a gallery called me up and asked me to make them flower pots. And I said, well, what kind of flower pots do you want? And they said, well, you're the artist, you make them up. So I made a blue iris similar to this and sent it to them. And they called me up and they go, well, it's not a flower pot, but this is nice. And I later learned they wanted flower pots just that were a little more artistic to put plants in to offset the artwork that they were showing.
Right,
and
right.
I ended up being the featured artist in their gallery because they were not a potter's gallery. They were more of an oil painting gallery, and they said they had never considered having pottery in their gallery before. And what I run into a lot is people say that this isn't pottery. And to me, clay is clay. This is a porcelain clay, but it's still clay.
Well, your work is described as double and single wall.
Mm-hmm. Now this is a double wall pot, And when we go downstairs, I'll show you what I call the blanks that I make them from. First I throw a vessel, which this is part of the vessel here, that's thrown on the wheel. And then I hand form all of these petals on myself. And I take the clay and I pull it out and I stretch it and I abuse it and generally beat it up. And because to me the clay has a personality. And you have to know what the clay is willing to do before you start making a piece, because if it's not willing to do what you want it to do, it's just going to fall apart. And with these being so thin, like in these areas here, they will fall down if I don't have it balanced right.
What was your influence for this?
And when
We were talking before about Hispanic and Moresque styles.
Well, I'm Puerto Rican, and really New Yorican as they call them now. My grandfather and father came over from Puerto Rico early in the 20s and lived through the Depression. And even in college, without even knowing, sometimes I think so many things are in your genes. And I always lean toward the Spanish look without even knowing it. And this is a Spanish look.
Oh, yes.
And people say, you know, the word Gaudi came from Gaudi the artist in Spain. And Spanish pottery is very flamboyant and very bright and colorful and has a lot of emphasis on form and structure and that kind of thing.
Well, your Spanish colors, even the color schemes, and if you go there, everything is very bright.
Very, very bright. And I like bright colors. I do some of the sculpture like the woman there, but it's when people see my booth at a show, everybody smiles, and it's kind
It's
of
happy.
Yeah, it's a very happy thing. And I always think, why can't pottery and why can't art be beautiful? I know there's art is supposed to bring out an emotion, but why can't people be happy when they see art too? And to me, if it makes people happy, it's great. And even, you know, people, I tell them, these are my babies. And they all have their little name written on the bottom like that. And they're all signed and numbered and everything. And my husband has to sell them for me at shows because he calls it adopting them, because they are my babies, because I would much rather just keep them all. But we don't have room. As you can tell, pottery has taken over my whole house.
Have you ever done pansies?
Yes.
And the only reason I ask that is you were talking about happy. A few years back, I applied for a job at a nursery, and the owner said to me, he brought in 3 or 4 pots of pansies that were blooming, and he said to me, "What do they remind you of?" And I said, "Happy faces." And he said, "You're hired."
As a matter of fact, one of my first pieces that was in a national competition was a pansy pot. And I always called it a pansy pot, or PP. My husband always laughs at me about that. And now, this one was done probably almost 4 years ago. And so it's not quite, you could see the progression from when I first started doing the flowers to a more full flower, because it's not quite as elaborate and moving as this one is.
Is your style still developing?
I would say that it is. There's a lot of things that I have in my brain that I like to do, and since I don't draw anymore, I really have things fully formed in my mind before I do them, because if I can picture it in my mind, I can do it. And to me, before I can even start doing a vase, I have to have it fully pictured and what I want to do. But also, one of the best things I ever did is I studied under Peter Vokus, who's a very big sculptor and potter. And he told me what I should do is start making series of pieces and make the same piece over and over and over again and throw the first 10 away. And then you'd see a progression of your work on a more free-flowing. And that's how I went from these to a more flowing iris like that, and then also to these peonies that are much more flowing. And I make my own clay, and I discovered a clay that's very strong in the wet form, but still gives me the nice white feel that I want for my glazes, so the glazes have a more transparent look and watercolor look.
What inspires you? Are you ever out and you pass a field and see it burst into color?
I love flowers, but I kill them at home on a regular basis. So,
in other words, if they're not made of clay, forget it.
that's right. They probably have no chance in my house.
But let's look at it this way. You do really immortalize them.
And they're not going to, unless you break them, which they're not going to break they'll break like regular pottery will break. If you drop it on a tile floor, it's going to shatter into a million pieces. But other than that, you can abuse it any way you want. Our cats knock them on the carpet and they don't break because they are so thick. There's so much clay in there. And you don't have to water them. You don't have to have someone house it for you.
No, that's true. It's just a dusting here and there.
Yeah, that's about it.
What would you like to do in the future?
This upcoming year, I would like to get more into fountains, and not a traditional water fountain. I wanted to do, I haven't fully conceived it yet, but I'd want to do a water fountain where water is not the only thing moving in the piece. I want it to be more of a substantial piece, and make it into tables and end tables. And
It would have to be a big piece then.
Yes, it would be. And so I have to engineer, because to ship it, because now I'm selling to galleries across the country, I have to figure out an easy way where it can come apart and the gallery owner can put it back together again and still have it be able to be shipped. And that's a big engineering problem.
Now, you also have a show coming up at Lincoln Center, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, in Lincoln Center in New York City. I'll be their featured artist, but featured artist means they stick me way in the back where the electricity is. Because
You mean the title really isn't what it's cracked up?
But the organizer is really nice, and they don't normally provide electricity, but they provide, because I have an electric wheel, and I don't do kick wheels very well. I tend to fall off of them. So, coordination is not one of my stronger points. So he gets Lincoln Center to turn on the electricity for me, and I feel kind of guilty because they have to turn on all the lights in Lincoln Center.
That's all right. They make big money. Don't worry about it.
So at the show, I have a booth that we set up. It's a wooden booth, but it's all shelves, so all the pottery can sit on the shelves. And then next to my booth, I set up a little miniature workshop, which is probably bigger than the workshop I have downstairs most of the time. And I sit there and I throw all day long, and I let people try if they want to try and get good and muddy, and we have a lot of fun.
It seems to me you have come such a long way in 4 years, and yet actually all your life you have been working.
Yes, I've always thought about doing people portraits, which is why I was doing that sculpture. And flowers I had horses most of my life, and being outdoors all the time and being very physically active, it's the outdoors and nature, and I lived in Montana for a long time, also when I was in the military, that it's very moving to me. And I'm not a political activist or anything like that, but people get happy, like you said, when they see this work. And if it makes people think about environmental issues or anything like that, that's not my motive, but it could be a nice little side effect.
You were speaking earlier about a Women's Society of Artists. Tell me a little about it.
Well, one of the first things that I've learned these last 4 years of becoming a professional artist is that you really should join a group. Now, if you can't find a group of artisans, to make one yourself and get your friends involved and that kind of thing. But I was lucky enough to discover through a friend of mine the National League of American Penwomen, which will be celebrating their 100th anniversary next year. And I was elected to be president of the Princeton branch down in Princeton. And what the National League of American Penwomen is a society of women artists, and it's designed to promote female artists. When it was started 100 years ago, women were not really respected in the arts. And they call it the Penwomen because most of the women that started it were writers as artists. But the organization allows visual artists, painters, musicians, writers, cookbook editors, anybody like that. And you can be an associate member, and you can be a full-fledged member. What I call the full-fledged members, it's a very long process. You have to show proof of sales of your pieces and a track record, not just I went to one show and I sold my piece.
In other words, it's like being published, being jured. What is the reason for all this, though, to do this?
It's really to help young artists learn where there is places to show and what do they have to do a show, and all to get over the bumps, and there are a lot of bumps in the art world to get through. And to do networking, just like regular businesses and computers, you do networking to find out where to make your sales. And this is a society for women, and it is nationwide. Every 2 years they have a huge show of all, and it's a juried show also, of all the what I call the full-fledged members in the Smithsonian. And they just had their last show in January of this year. And it's a very nice organization to be in, and we're really trying to encourage young artists and musicians to look up their local branch and to start in it. There's a lot of brochures, there's a lot of information that they give, and in some ways it's like a sorority, and in some ways it's not, and it's a very professional.
Is there a way for artists who are watching this to get in touch with you?
They can call me at my number, either number, my home, or in my studio. Both of those numbers have answering machines on them, or they can write to me at my home address. Also, if they're in northern Jersey, they can go to their local library and look up artist organizations, and I think there is a North Jersey branch. And in New York City, there is a branch of the American Pen Women also.
We were talking earlier about throwing pots and getting down deep and dirty in the clay. Let's go do it.
Hi Dolly, now that we're down in my studio, I wanted to show you how the clay is done and made and processed to make it ready for throwing. So first I have these 2 huge garbage cans full of clay, and what I do, it's made from dry ingredients that I get in bags, like 50-pound bags like this, and I dump it all in. I put mold in there and it sits for 6 months. Then I grab it when it's a good consistency like this, and I put it into my pugger. And this is called a pug mill, and what it does is it wedges the clay for me and takes all the air out. Now I have to turn it on, it's a little loud. So the clay gets squished in here, and then this is our vacuum gauge, and pretty quick here it's going to vacuum it, and it comes out there. And I take my fettling knife and just cut it off. Well, after I take it out of the pugger, I make it into a nice ball like this, and then I throw it on the wheel.
Is that what's called throwing?
That's what's called throwing. Mud goes everywhere.
You know, you were talking before about you had to add mold to it. I was going to say, gee, would you like to come down and clean out my refrigerator?
Sure, sure.
I have a little mold in there.
For some reason, what the mold does is it makes the clay more what they call plastic, and therefore easier to throw and do on the wheel. Now what I'm doing here is I'm centering it.
You need a lot of strength for that, don't you?
Mm-hmm. That's why I have this elbow braced against my leg, because I use my leg for strength.
Just looks like so much fun to get so pushy. It's just that you make it look so easy.
Oh. And I tell my husband I might have flab everywhere else, but I have no flab under my arm.
You know, you could start your whole spa center here.
That's right. The good old porcelain clay method of
flab removal.
Yeah, this is definitely aerobic exercise.
So actually, what are you going to be making here? Haven't you made up your mind yet?
This is going to be the inner wall. It can either be the inner wall to a peony vessel, or, because I have a lot of those that I have to make, or it can be a blank like this one, which this one's already leather hard. It got a little mushy in the plastic bag I had it in, but that doesn't matter because it just adds a little more character. And then this will become an iris, like the iris I showed you upstairs.
Right. You know, you said something a minute ago, though, that really bothered me. You said that people don't think as much of work that's done here in this country as they do as to imported ceramics.
Yeah, it seems when I've been out in shows, even the big shows like at Lincoln Center, people don't believe that the work that I do is actually handmade here in the States. And they keep asking me, oh, where do you really import it from? And I actually had a lady who watched me, because I do throw at shows, and I had a lady who watched me throw it and then carve it and then still say to me, but where do you import it from?
I actually have all those little kids that are working for you out in some strange little country.
Yeah, that's right. All that child labor, right?
Yes. We better not say that. We'll be getting a lot of strange mail.
We'll cut that part out. Okay, so now it's centered. For that little part on the bottom, which I'll take off. I always, why fight it? If there's a little bit on the bottom, just take it off, you know?
Now, that's my theory.
What you want to do is you have to make a hole. Now the clay always will go off center. If it even has the remotest chance, it's like a 2-year-old child. If it has the chance to do something bad, it'll do it. So what I do is I push with these 2 fingers because it makes a bigger hole, and then I push here because this way my hand is steady and I can pretty much keep it on center. When you do it, I'll have a little bit softer clay for you to handle and a little bit smaller.
When I do, that can be everyone's laughing. Do you really have to practice?
Initially you do. It took me 6 months to make a coffee cup when I was in college.
You make me feel much better than
I was just determined that when I went back to college, I was 30-something, and you have these 18-year-old kids, and they just sit down and they do it. Oh, but I wasn't going to get beat by an 18-year-old kid.
That's the attitude.
So this is about the size it's going to be, but you see all these ridges here, those are my finger marks. And I don't like to have finger marks because to me this is a blank canvas. So I'm going to take the finger marks. These ridges here.
I like the ridges though.
Yeah, but when I go and turn it into an iris, the ridges are going to be taking away from the piece because an iris grows straight up and down, and it's just like striped blouses. You want to wear stripes straight up and down, not sideways.
Okay.
So with this rib, which all a rib is really is just a piece of wood, and it takes it right out. So to take it off the wheel, I always do this. I put water down on the wheel and I slide the water under the pot itself. And it just comes right on.
Like that. How about that?
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the iris petal. And the iris will be built up on top here. And I roughed it up because just like Velcro, clay will stick to a rough surface before it's going to stick to a smooth surface. And then this is the same clay, it just has a little more water in it. Sometimes a lot more water.
Did you play with mud a lot when you were a kid?
When I was little, because I am Puerto Rican, I'm the only daughter.
I didn't mean it because of that.
No, my mother says this is my revenge because she used to dress me up in those real starchy, frilly things.
Sure.
And this is before wrinkle-free fabric, so she really starched this lace. And I even had starched lace panties. And that's how, those were my play clothes that I had to go out and play with. And if I got muddy, I was put on restriction big time. So she says this is my revenge for not letting me play in the mud.
Oh, that's funny.
So
that's funny.
This one is a little bit wet, this clay.
There's got to be something Freudian about it. But we won't go into it on camera.
So all these years, and we won't say how many. So this clay is a little bit wetter than what I normally use to make it, but we can. I've done with worse than this. That shows. This is how we show how the potter gets her fingers all burned up. So we're going to stick it here, and we're going to take the torch.
I'm going to get out of your way.
And because I'm not coordinated, it has a trigger start on it because I almost burned down the house with that regular thing. Now what the torch does is not really firing it, it's just drawing it out real quick. Yeah, let me put a Dolly on fire.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So that's how I do it, Dolly. And from that process, I make the big iris that you saw before. So now we're going to start with you.
Gee, thank you. Okay, so I can get my hands
Get your hands good and wet.
Okay.
Make the wheel go as fast as it'll go. You're in control.
I'm in control.
So we have it centered.
And we have it centered, and I have
And you want to go down a little bit further.
I have to do with my thumbs?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Keep
this?
your hands still, perfectly still, and go down a little bit more.
Okay, okay.
Okay, good. You got it.
Oh, this
now
is fun. Yeah,
okay, that's good. You don't want to go all the way to the bottom because then you won't
okay.
have any more. So you want to take your hand out.
Yes, they've given me 6 seconds until I start to get hysterical.
Okay,
here.
take your hands out.
Oh, take them out,
Then take your one hand like this, your right hand, and put it in like this and pull it toward you while holding the clay.
Okay, pull
and then
towards me.
You're going to open it up.
Why is it knocking?
Well, because you knocked it off center.
Oh. Well,
but it's still good.
Can we push it back in again? Okay. Like this?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, so there. Now you have a bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
We know that. I'm sitting on this stool.
Okay. So now you're going to change.
Okay, hold on.
We'll get it to be back on center again. Now what you're going to do,
Yes, yes.
I'm the queen of the fixing of the pots.
This is
I got it good and wet. You want to put your
This is very
left hand
therapeutic.
inside and your right hand outside, because you're right-handed and I'm
Right.
left-handed.
Okay.
And
Whoops.
okay, and what you're going to do is, you want to slow the wheel down.
Yeah.
Slow it down, slow it down. Push down on the back of the wheel pedal and make it go slow. Slow,
Oh.
slow, slow. Faster. And that's good speed. No, too fast.
Whoops.
Okay, so what you're going to, I'm sorry, what
That's
you're
okay.
going to do is you're going to take your
okay.
hands and
Yes.
push and pull.
Push what and pull what?
You're going to push in and pull up.
Whoops.
Okay, well, we'll just start with a smaller piece and we'll do it again. Here you go. This is sculpture, you know?
How about it? Listen, yes, this could be a whole new career for me.
There you go.
That's right. Dave, I'm warning you.
Now, this is how you get back to Christmas.
Is this how you get a smaller and smaller pot?
It's called the precious pot syndrome. You don't want to give it up.
Actually,
Okay, make it go slower. Slowness is the key. Make the wheel go slower.
I'm trying.
Push
What's
back
happening?
on the thing. No, you're pushing forward. Okay.
Okay, hold on.
Let me get this top lump
Oh,
off.
I see. Oh,
Okay, make it go.
you know,
Well, it has to go a little bit. Okay, I'll get
I just want to see you guys do this, you know? Really?
Okay, so put your hand inside
Okay.
and your right hand outside. Your left hand inside and your right hand outside. And you're going to squish your hands together like this and go like that. But you have to have them together to do it.
You mean like this and
No, you have to put your hand inside like
oh,
this.
you have to. You stick your hand inside and then I'll try and pull
Okay.
it. I need 4 hands. I cannot do this with 2 hands.
Now you know why it took me 6 months to make a coffee cup.
How about a thimble?
Yeah, thimbles are good.
Thimble. That's
I'll
what
take
this
this
is
lump
going
off
to
for
be.
you.
This is going to be. You know, this is so much fun. I could sit here for the rest of the afternoon. Unfortunately, we are crowded down here. And we are out of time. So, Debbie, I thank you so much. I have had so much fun. You may never get rid of me. I hope all of you out there are having as much fun as I am having here. I'll see you all next month. In the meantime, take care. Oh, this is good. This is
You're doing it.
See?
Okay, but you want to do your hands like this. Put your hand inside like this.
Yes, I don't see
Opposite each other. Squish up your hands.
Oh, like this?
But one inside, one outside.